Hello everybody, welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham on match day 11 in the Premier League where we take on Everton at Goodison Park. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to support the video with a thumbs up and post your comments below. So, jumping straight into it with team news. For Everton, Fabian Delph could make his first start of the Premier League season after his substitute appearance last week. Yerry Mina is out with a thigh injury. Lucas Digne could be available after coming back to training. Good news on striker front. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still out with his thigh injury. Andre Gomez is out with a calf injury. And Abdallah Doucouré is also out as well. So that's good news in that sense. Some of their stronger players will not be making appearances. And then team news for us, Ryan Sessegnon, who we know is out anyway, and then Brian Hill is out with his hamstring injury. So they're the two that are not fit for us. Both teams in the Premier League last time out suffered defeats. Obviously, the 3-0 terrible display against Manchester United, which saw Nuno sacked from the club, and Everton lost 2-1 at Wolves. At the Premier League, Daniel Farke has lost his job at Norwich as well, and he actually recorded his first win in the Premier League. Then you had Manchester United. They took a loss to Manchester City, and which was a very poor display from them. So it looked like they just stepped things up for our game. They went with the same system against City and it just didn't work. They looked back to the useless bunch of lads they were before. So will Solskjaer be the next person to be sacked? Have we started a trend getting rid of Nuno? We shall see. Everton had a incredible start to the Premier League with their counter-attacking style. Damari Gray, who came in for, 1.6, 1.7 million, something ridiculous. And former Spur Andros Townsend, both of them incredible on the counter-attack, have offered a lot of crosses for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who, can be like an old school striker at times. Something that I feel with Harry Kane that we miss out on because we just don't put enough crosses into the box. Not that he's there anyway, because he's always busy dropping deep trying to play a midfielder, a playmaker and a striker. But nonetheless, Everton, they've dropped off in their last few outings. I think that they've lost their last 3, something like that. So under Conte, from Thursday night, what we can take from that is obviously there's going to be a change in formation. We look like we're going to take more risks on the ball, which should mean in the long term of things that we will have more shots, more possession, more chances created. Because at the moment, previously under Nuno, we were absolutely poor in that department. You only had to look at all the stats. We were like between 17th and 20th on pretty much every single stat, shots on goal, distances covered, chances created, all the important things that are going to help you win a game, we were down the bottom on. So we should see a change in tide with Conte at the helm. He likes his players to work very, very hard off the ball and on the ball. And that relates to training. He was actually an hour and a bit late to his press conference. So the training session that he had with the players, he kept them behind an hour longer than they should have because he obviously needed to get his points across. Look, he's not got a lot of time to work with the players after coming in. He's had no pre-season. The international break isn't going to help too much because the majority of our big game players and starting 11, they're going to be off on international duty. So he's not going to have many of the first team players to actually work with during the international break when it hits, but there will be some of the fringe players that are knocking on the door of the squad, people like Harry Winks, Dele Alli. I mean, Eric Dyer's already in there, but he'll get some game time. I don't know what's happening with Bergwijn at the moment, but yeah, it'll be some time to work with some of them, and hopefully he can push them to at least be impactful off the bench or give them a chance to push for a starting berth within the lineup. So let's talk about a little bit of previous between us. Everton have only won 1 of the last 17 against us in the Premier League. So that's drawn 8, lost 8. However, they did beat us in the Premier League 1-0 last season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Shocking stat for us. We've only scored 9 goals in 10 games. So that's something I would expect to change with Conte at the helm, with the different style of football, the more freedom that our players are going to have in an attacking sense. Harry Kane has 11 goals in 12 games against Everton, which is fantastic. However, this term, he only has 1 goal in 9 games in the Premier League so far. So if there's ever a game to kickstart his running form, this is the one, because he obviously loves a goal against Everton. On the flip side, Andros Townsend has no goals or assists against Spurs since he left us. I would expect him to play. He's been very good this season for Everton. I mean, to snap him up on a free and use him in the way he's been used, I think is absolutely brilliant. You know, the pairing up as him as a winger and Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a striker has been, you know, absolute masterstroke from Rafa Benitez. Conte, on speaking about players, Dele Alli was mentioned. He said that he has great potential. He reminisced on a time when he came up against Dele Alli and he got 2 goals in a game. He was saying that, you know, Dele Alli is fit and physical and strong at the moment, and he will get his chance to start if he shows he deserves it. And that's the same with every player. He's come in, clean slate, no kind of judgment on what has happened to the players in the past. And for a guy like him, it makes sense because he manages to get the best out of players that weren't previously performing. So clean slate for everybody. So not just Dele, everybody. If they show they deserve to start, they will start. So we could see a bit of shuffling going on over the next few weeks with players, because you'll find as time goes on and they adapt to his philosophy, they're just going to be working harder and harder and harder. So we could see a few changes here and there. Conte's final Premier League game when he left Chelsea was actually against Rafa Benitez when he was in charge of Newcastle and suffered a 3-0 loss. Hopefully, coming up against Rafa again, he can get his own back and turn that one into a victory for us today. How many players that started on Thursday will start today? I'm not sure. Put in the comments below what you think. Obviously, Lloris will probably start in goal. If he's going to go for a back 3, he might change it up this time. Romero was obviously red carded, so he's suspended on international European football, but he's available today. So I would assume Romero and Dyer will definitely keep their places. Who plays next to them? I'm not too sure. Like, Ben Davies obviously got the nod to sit as a left-sided centre-back, which is arguably his best position. He also has the understanding of left-back, so that helps out Reguilon, and we actually found that Davies got forward a fair bit in the game on Thursday. So there is that understanding that they can both switch with one another. He offers the good cover. However, there's Tanganga, there's Rodon, there's Sanchez. And I actually thought when Sanchez came on Thursday, he gave a good account of himself. Obviously took that blow to the head, came back on with a bandage, and you probably would have seen, if you've had a look at any of the training pictures or footage, he was strapped up again. So that obviously hasn't fully healed yet. Nonetheless, it didn't seem to bother him on the pitch. It might have been a bit sore the next day. Obviously, adrenaline on the day would have stopped any pain, but who knows where he's at now. So we shall see what happens there. I would expect that Emerson Royale and Reguilon will maintain their positions, although it could be an opportunity for Doherty to show what he can do a little bit further forward, which is where he played when he was at Wolves, which I thought would have happened under Nuno, and he just didn't fancy him whatsoever there. And it never happened under Mourinho, because Mourinho likes to have one of them as an attacking fullback and then uses the other one to tuck in a little bit. And that's what happened. We brought in Doherty for that reason, to play further forward. Then Reguilon became available. We snapped him up, which meant Doherty then become the defensive player. And that's not his game. Something that he hadn't done for many, many years. So we'll see what happens there. In the midfield, I would expect Højbjerg to definitely keep his place. Whether Skip retains his or he gives Harry Winks a chance, because Harry Winks I actually thought was very good on Thursday. It's the best he's played in a long time. But then again, Vitesse were having to go for it. They'd been running their socks off all game. So he came on against a team that were kind of tiring. So that may have made him look better. However, in training this week, Harry Winks has looked sharp. They were doing like a possession passing based drill. Harry Winks looked very sharp. All his passes nice and crisp and clean. Wasn't just passing sideways and backwards. He was passing forwards as well, which is good to see. And I would love to see the Harry Winks that we saw tear it up against Real Madrid. I know I've mentioned it a few times about that, but that's because those performances were incredible. And we thought to ourselves, wow, this is a player that's really going to develop. And then his career just kind of stagnated and went down a bit. Lucas Moura, I think, has to play. I think that's why he was taken off in the game on Thursday night just to rest his legs ready for the match today. Sonny's obviously not going to be dropped, and then Harry Kane up top. Who else occupies their midfield positions? I'm not sure. That leaves space for one more if it's not going to be Winksy. Is it going to be Tanguy? Is it going to be Lo Celso? We shall see. And there's something interesting that's been spoken about by a few people. Obviously, we know Conte was the mastermind behind taking Victor Moses from a winger/striker and turning him into a attacking fullback / wingback. Could that man in our ranks be Steven Bergwijn? We saw in Mourinho's tenure that and Bergwijn got a lot of criticism, and it wasn't his own fault. Mourinho used him as a right winger, but gave him specific duties to defend and protect Aurier and Doherty, whichever one was playing in those particular games. That was the role he was given. Now, we know he can do the defensive running. We know he has bags of energy. We know he has a lot of pace. Could we see him become the new Victor Moses for Tottenham? I don't know. Let me know your comments below. I'm not sure he's quite ready for that. Moses was obviously older when this happened, so had more tactical nous, understood the game a little bit better, but it could be a possibility. However, I thought Emerson Royale on Thursday night was very good in his role. Obviously, still not to the calibre we want him to be. Final product wasn't always great, but it was a step in the right direction. He seemed to enjoy the freedom. I do worry that he's not quite quick enough to keep attacking up the flanks the way he does in the Premier League yet, but hopefully they can put him on a training regime where his pace increases. Lots and lots of work on the old legs and the glutes. Where are we at? So, yeah, if we look at where we are in the table now, we currently sit 10th in the Premier League on 15 points. A win today, if we ignore the fact that Arsenal are playing for a second, if a win today could possibly take us 5th, right? So that puts us on 18 points, which means we will leapfrog Crystal Palace, Wolves, Arsenal, Brighton and Manchester United. However, Arsenal do play today. I think they're the 1 o'clock. But if they win their game, that takes them into 5th, which means if we win, we will then be in 6th. But we will have 18 points, which actually takes us 8 points off of leaders Chelsea. I can't see us catching them at any point unless we go on an absolute streak of wins and they collapse. So that's out the question straight away. But that takes us 2 points off of West Ham in 4th place. So they're sitting on 20 points currently. They're continuing their surge from last season. And I think a lot of us thought with European football, they were probably going to struggle this season in the Premier League because we've seen it time and time again. Teams that haven't had the European football before, they enter it. They don't have enough squad depth. The Thursday night into Sundays, the travelling, it takes it out the players. We've seen it time and time again with our own squad and many of the teams around us. But West Ham seem to be coping quite well. I mean, they've got a decent manager in their ranks. He would have known what European football does to a squad, which means he invested in the summer. They've got good depth to their squad. They've got some very good experience to call upon in players like Mark Noble, if needed. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Against Everton today, pretty much a full team, bar Bryan Gil and Ryan Sessegnon, but we haven't really seen Sessegnon all season anyway. Conte's first game in charge of Spurs in the Premier League. So he had the victory, the roller coaster of emotions on Thursday night with the 5 goals, the 3 red cards, the great attacking display, the collapses of concentration from set pieces, people not tracking men. But, you know, we started the game quickly, and that's what I hope we do today, because traditionally we start games very slowly. It takes us anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes to actually wake up and know we're in a game. I will say that we carried on in that game Thursday. What I liked is we dug in. We kept fighting. We were intelligent on the ball in the last sort of 10 minutes. We were very good at making sure that we didn't concede too many chances. Rather than panicking, people were playing the balls into the corners, trying to hold up. Didn't get too overexcited, didn't get too nervous. I thought defensively we were better when we went down to 10 men. Up the concentration levels of everybody in the team. So look, it was only one game. Conte isn't going to work miracles overnight, but because of the calibre of manager he is, he's going to demand work from those players. They are going to have to work so hard, which is what we need to see. There are too many players that have just kind of dropped off. And I think part of that, I don't think it was Nuno's fault per se. But however, I think Nuno was a bit of an underwhelming choice as manager, and players would have known that. They wanted, like, you've just had, Pochettino, who took us on to new heights. Mourinho, one of the biggest names in football, and although it didn't work out, he's still a massive name. So to go from Mourinho to Nuno unintentionally, it's going to affect the players. It's an underwhelming appointment. So that says all you need to know. Conte's come on, big name, massive respect within the world of football. So without even realising, it gives players that little more excitement, bit of buzz, the club showing ambition, the fans are going to be right behind the players. So, just by a name coming in, it can change stuff without him even implementing anything. It's a mental attitude thing, something that Spurs have been criticised of being very weak at, mentally not great. I don't know how much we use sports psychologists at the club. I know we certainly didn't under Pochettino. But I feel like sports psychologists play a massive part. I know there's several top name players that have done it over the years. If you saw some of my previous videos, you would have heard me mention Tiger Woods, had a sports psychiatrist. Wayne Rooney, I believe, has used him over the years to help him calm himself down within games. They're a great thing and it's a useful tool, and I feel like clubs don't utilise them enough. But anyway, that's it for today. I'm excited for the game to see what Conte brings to us in the Premier League. Hopefully we can get off to a flyer in the Premier League, start creeping our way back up the table, and then before you know it, it'll be January, and I'm sure we're going to have a hectic window in terms of media links, not necessarily incoming players, but hopefully he can get 2 or 3. I know he wants about 4, but if we can get 2 really good players, or, at least 3 in the door, I think that'll be the case of a good window, because I think what you will see is a few players that have been a bit underwhelming within the Tottenham Hotspur squad will start to turn things around now, which, means we then don't have to go out and buy. Hopefully Sessegnon will be back at some point soon, so that'll be like a brand new signing again. Conte can probably get the best out of him. He's another one that could potentially be a proper wing back under Conte. He has bags of potential. I'm not sure what the future holds for Bryan Gil. He looks like an exciting prospect for the future, but I don't think he's quite ready to be starting for us on a regular basis. I think he's still a little bit too lightweight. I'd like him not to bulk up, just become a bit stronger. But yes, that is it for today. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully we get the win today, and then we can talk about it tomorrow in a really positive light. Enjoy it, guys. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, come on you Spurs.